It's just, yeah, I mean that seriously.
Really? Because
We do have a guest room with private bathroom, so and extra.
Hey, honey, we have a contact in southern Germany.
Yes.
Oh, well, I appreciate you extending that.
Yes.
That's really sweet of you. We're going to IBC, and we're arguing over where we should visit after IBC.
Okay.
I kind of want to go to France. He's obsessed with history and things like that, so he really wants to go to Germany.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, do we go
so
left or right?
You should either do Berlin, Berlin or maybe Nuremberg. But there's not that much left from.
Is it?
No.
Where you live, very south.
Yeah, it's like those.
Because you said the border of Germany.
Yeah, the southernmost. But it's basically the southernmost part of.
I'm apparently Austrian.
Right, where are you from?
On my mom's side. She was adopted and never knew where she was from, but she met her birth mother, and apparently they're Austrian.
Okay, it's good.
And then Ukrainian.
Ukrainian?
My dad's family. 100%.
Okay, that's where you got your good looks from.
I guess so. Blonde hair, blue eyes. And it's kind of a Russian-Ukrainian thing. I look like my dad. He has like a pointy nose. No, I do. I'll show you my aunt. She looks just like me.
Okay. Yeah, but not good.
My aunt, it's so funny. We always compare our senior portraits, and they look just alike. Now here I am showing you my family photos.
That's okay.
That's what happens when you sit down and talk to me for more than 5 minutes.
That's okay.
I can't even find it. This is my husband as a baby, and he looks just like my son, which is right here. They look so much alike as babies.
Okay.
I can't seem to find the picture. Oh, here she is.
I think that's a good sign.
That's my aunt. Isn't that what they look like?
Yeah. That's a family resemblance there.
And here's my dad.
Yeah, okay.
As a young fella.
Okay, there's a resemblance there, definitely. Yeah. So, strong genes.
Strong, crazy Ukrainians. Very intense.
I was wondering where the name comes from. That's all.
Oh, that's my husband's name. Okay. My maiden name's Wozniak.
Oh.
Mishnak.
I'll go on this side so we're both on the same side.
Okay. Good. So which is the microphone?
From Kiev.
Kiev.
All right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Pull up the chat.
I don't know if the tally lights are working.
Oh,
I'm really not sure.
1, 2, 3.
Check 1, check 2. Paul had the levels peaking, so.
All right.
Someone say that?
I'm just busting you, just like always.
Busting me.
Poor Paul. He always gets yelled at.
So is that distance, or do we have to get closer? Do we have to swallow the microphone?
Exactly. You've been watching our shows?
I get too excited and I swallow the microphone.
Did you do a little clip for Tim? I think he was looking for some video.
I got it.
Ooh, the lights
just
are
a short
bright.
clip.
Yeah.
It's like leaking. Ever since I've been here, I don't know if it's the dust or the dryness.
I have some of the Zyrtec if you want to try it.
I'm not taking your voodoo pills.
All right, so
big time difference for you.
Hello and welcome to the PTZOptics live show. It's the last day of NAB, and we have with us Oliver from MimoLive.
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure always.
Yes, it is a pleasure to have you every year. We have so much fun, and I love that you bring this bright yellow shirt with you.
A spot of color for the show.
Oh, I can totally appreciate that. And you're certainly recognized, so they won't forget about you.
Yeah. Good.
What a crazy week it's been.
It's been an absolutely crazy week. If you've had a chance to follow along. Bye, Tim.
Bye, Tim.
I hope that you've learned a lot. Every year, it's about, for me, learning about the other companies and what's going on. The biggest learning that's happening for most folks is how to use IP, how to use Internet Protocol technology to inside your video production. And MimoLive has actually been at the front line of that for a long time. Oliver, tell us a little bit about your product and what you're showing in NAB.
So MimoLive is a live video production system for the Mac. Allows you to do multi-camera shots, add graphics, do all kinds of weird and crazy things, and then stream it live to Facebook or YouTube, all in your Mac package. And NDI and the IP protocols for us is really great because, as you know, Macs are not easy to be extended. So there's basically the option of getting a Blackmagic card into an external PCIe extender box, hooking it up through Thunderbolt, or plug in your network cable, and whichever is easier, And so we are very excited also about the announcements from NewTek about NDI4, which will, for the first time, add hardware decoding on the Mac platform. So that drives down the processor power used for decoding your guys' cameras a lot, and that will help with performance, certainly. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Really cool. So, I was at the NewTek event on Sunday. I saw you were there. They released NewTek NDI 4.0. Maybe we'll dig into that. But at a higher level, one of the things that Mac users, like you said, you can't build a custom Mac. So it's difficult to do at least.
You also don't have to, because you can basically decide how much money you want to spend and then just max out the machine, and then that's a pretty good bang for the buck. So and you don't have to know all the drivers, where you get them, and then and I think it's just a world for people who like to get things done, and not for the tinkerers, right? It's for just buy it, connect it, works.
So, because you're not building a custom Mac with a PCIe card, having the ability to bring in multiple NDI sources over Ethernet seems to be it must be a huge solution for your customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can get cameras, you can do screen grabs from remote computers. There's all kinds of devices now that output NDI, and also MimoLive also outputs NDI. So you can use MimoLive also for doing all kinds of things like converting your SDI stream or SDI output to NDI. You can use MimoLive to create the graphics, social media integration with the tweets or the comments or whatever, and just play it out to NDI. You can use NDI out to ingest into a TriCaster switcher or some other switcher supporting NDI, or you can just pipe out the video signal into MimoLive and then put it onto the web, stream it to YouTube or Facebook. So MimoLive is really a Swiss Army knife for NDI, and NDI is a great thing for MimoLive because it allows us to work much easier with video sources, and also to integrate easier into other production systems without having to add any hardware to the existing Mac.
Wow. So what else are you showing that's new? I know it's exciting to have NewTek NDI 4.0, and I know you'll implement that soon. But over the past year, tell us the big features that MimoLive has been working on.
I can't even remember all the features because we're using a subscription model for the application that allows us to crank out new features whenever they are ready. We don't have to wait until the next major release where we can ask for an upgrade fee. We can just whenever we are done with something, we can just put it into MimoLive, and that leads to an incredible depth of products. So we have so many things. We're currently working on. I don't even know. So we're working on layer sets, which is sort of like scenes. That's going to be coming out this week in a beta version. We have changed all the Facebook API stuff this week, and going to release it next week. It's a constant churn of new stuff coming, and we had about 40 releases last year. So
wow. That's crazy. So what do you think about Facebook and their new secure RTMP-S streaming protocol?
I mean, we support it, and so no issue. It's kind of interesting that RTMP is still sort of the major thing. Also, although it comes with a lot of problems, and so I'm wondering why they have chosen to go RTMP-S instead of moving to some other ingest technology like SRT or something like that. And who am I to question their decisions on this? But I think we're supported in MimoLive. You can just use, instead of RTMP, use RTMP-S for the URL, and we'll automatically use RTMP-S. And if you use the Facebook API, we connect to Facebook through RTMP-S because they already require that for the API integration.
Wow. Well, I want to talk a little bit about your PTZ controller for MimoLive. I know a lot of the customers enjoy that. So if you have a PTZOptics camera and you're a Mac user, MimoLive might be a great solution for you. Tell us a little bit about...
Or the other way around. If you have a Mac and MimoLive, the PTZOptics cameras are good.
That's a great
solution for...
And so now that you're in the subscription model, essentially all the customers will get this PTZ controller functionality.
Yes.
I really like the way that you built the PTZ controller, and it's been around for actually a while now. Tell me about how users are using it today.
So, I mean, it's very easy. If you connect the camera through NDI, I think it's the best way to do that. And when you just put a multi-view on your screen, on top of the multi-view, they're just the controls that allow you to control the camera with the mouse. So you just click in and move the camera using the mouse. And we also support, of course, the presets where you can just store a certain position and another position, and then just recall them and move between them easily. So that allows you to use the camera to have multiple view angles, right? So yeah, but you know all about that.
Yeah, no, it's
but
great.
I think it may be good to remind people in the stream.
It's not a bad idea to remind everybody that MimoLive has a great PTZ controller functionality.
Yes. All right,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Outcast.com is asking about cross-platform. Do you guys have any answers?
We don't have any plans for that. Being a Mac-only application allows us to really leverage the platform we're working on.
Okay.
That is using all the cool stuff that Apple has in the operating system. So just for, I don't know, how big is the download for Remix? Do you know that?
No, I don't know.
So MimoLive is just 30 megabytes download.
Wow.
So because we don't, all the good stuff is in the operating system, we don't have to do it ourselves. So we can just give it frames to decode H.264. It will automatically do that on the hardware, and we just get the decoded image back, and that's it. And no extra code for us to write. So yeah. So and I mean, we don't have to deal with all the compatibility levels, making sure that we sort of a cross-platform app is always sort of like the least common denominator, and we can really focus on using the best of the platform.
Got it. What do you think about the future of MimoLive?
What I think about the future of MimoLive, I think it's great.
Of course, let's hope so.
So,
is there any insight you can give us on the future?
I mean, we are a company. We start out with things we want to use ourselves. So we built MimoLive basically because I wanted, as a kid, I wanted to have a TV studio in my living room, and so we are very much driven by what would we like to use. And then, but when we ship it, then we listen very carefully to the feedback that customers give us, and then we take it into consideration and think. Why are people wanting to do this, and how could we do it the best way we can? And I think that's a good strength of our company, is figure out good ways to give people what they need,
to listen.
and to listen to what they want. And the future, I think we Apple has announced that they will do a new Mac Pro sometime. They were supposed to do it last year, I have my suspicions why they didn't do that last year, and I think if they do one this year, I'm fairly certain that we will be benefiting very greatly from that new hardware, and we will be able to take MimoLive even to a higher level than what we have now.
Interesting. So Apple releases of new hardware could significantly affect how quickly and easily people can deploy a MimoLive system.
Yes. For example, we are now building ISO recording. So right now, MimoLive only records the down mix, but now we add a feature where you can have recording of single sources also. You can say, I want this camera recorded, or I want that Mimo call recorded separately, so I can use it later for, whatever purpose you want. And that's something that needs a lot of throughput, because you have to get all the data in from the NDI sources, for example. Then you decode it, and then you have to write it to disk, and that's taking a lot of bandwidth, and you need to have fast storage. You have to have fast processor. You have to have fast bus system. And I think moving forward, new machines will just help us to really push the limits.
Question on the chat from Jim F. Hi, thanks for joining us, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Will MimoLive ever upgrade to H.265?
You can already record H.265. If you go into the file recording, the output destination, you can choose H.265. For some reason, that is the performance isn't as good as H.264. Since we use macOS and all the libraries from macOS, that's what we get from macOS, and I think maybe it will improve in the future. But right now, it doesn't make a lot of sense to use it for streaming, because there's the big streaming providers don't support it anyway so far. And but when they do, we will certainly be doing that as well.
So I'd like to ask you, we have a little bit more time here. I'd like to ask you about, we mentioned everyone's talking about IP and the new tech NDI. Where does MimoLive see itself in the larger world of IP sources, IP video? And do you have any customer stories you can share where MimoLive is a part of maybe a larger solution that's using the NDI studio monitor or something of that nature that's helping your customers kind of build out a larger ecosystem?
I think IP and NDI is important to us for all the reasons I outlined earlier. Sometimes we go out into the field and do projects that allow us to use our own software and get to experience it in the same way customers do. I think you do the same, right? You use your cameras to do, I saw you do some community event, that kind of thing. And we did a technology conference in Munich shortly before Christmas last year with a complete NDI setup. So we had NDI cameras, we had major grabber for getting the presenter Mac into MimoLive, and the network, totally network-based setup. We even did a backup copy over the network with a second Mac and that kind of stuff. So just to get a feel on is that possible to already do a mobile presentation recording in this case with just IP technology, and everything that we had would fit into like 2 flight cases. Two small flight cases would be the complete cameras, cables, network switches, everything, and the Macs, and that worked really, really, really well. So yeah,
it's always good. Tess and I like to do this a lot. Just go out and live stream something and use your own product and other people's products together. Lead by example. Learn.
Collaborate.
It's that type of going out and streaming has helped us not only understand what our customers really want,
understand what our own product is,
understand how our own products can be improved, and we bring that information back and we go, look, we tried because when you're live streaming, there is no post production. It's got to be right. It's got to work. The pressure's a little bit on.
Yeah.
Now, this is a little bit of
especially
a...
the last couple of seconds before you go live. It's like, is
The
it going to
countdown.
crash?
We've
So
been there.
I can understand why live streamers and video production experts, like to put a lot of technology in place to help the production. And I think that if you're a Mac user, finding something like MimoLive is really something that you might want to look into, because not only is it really reliable, but you get to use that Mac operating system that you're familiar with.
Well, Oliver, it's been so great to have you on and to
Yeah,
spend
thank
some
you.
time with you again this year.
Let's do it again next year.
Absolutely. Before we sign off, can you let the audience know where they can find out more about MimoLive?
Okay, so all our product information is, of course, on our website. We are sort of traditionalists in that regard. boinx.com is the website for all of our products. And if you attach a /MimoLive at the end, it takes you directly to the MimoLive sub-web pages.
Well, thank you so much. Up next, we'll be speaking with Epiphan Video before finishing things off for NAB 2019 with Blackmagic Design and a giveaway. We'll see
All
you
right.
soon.
We got Epiphan
Right,
coming
Thank
on.
you.
Hi, guys. Come on.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody, to the PTZOptics live show.
We are here with George from Epiphan, and give me your real professional title so I don't mess this up.
Sure. My long title is that I'm the manager of technical support and training at Epiphan. So it's a little bit longer title, but I manage our tech support group. That's the gist of it.
Excellent. Well, we're happy to have you here to talk about Epiphan and NAB 2019. How's the show been?
Really good. Really good. Been very busy, but yeah, I think we're all tired. We're about done. Yeah.
So we decided to sneak George in here into our live show because there is a seriously awesome new announcement with the Epiphan Pearl 2. In fact, funny story about the Epiphan Pearl. Tess's sister-in-law is a teacher in a school district right next to us that we're working with, and she has a Pearl 2, and she loves it.
Nice.
Yeah, she was asking for some support on it.
Here, let me hand it to you.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I think I sent her your way to your support. But
I'll make sure I'll give you another card to give directly to her.
Streaming world, so I've got this Epiphan Pearl. Help me out.
Yeah, but our big news that we were talking about here at NAB is that we have a firmware update coming for the Pearl 2 in the next 2 weeks. So it's not public yet, but it will be very shortly. And that's going to add NDI support, input and output. So for the PTZOptics world, that's very exciting because you guys obviously have the NDI cameras. We can now do that. And it kind of, obviously the HDMI and SDI, that's always been a great option. But more and more people are trying to stick things in ceilings and put things in strange places.
So we're going in right here?
Yeah, so it's going to be very easy to just now bring that feed over the network. But, of course, not just cameras, right? The NDI world is vast. Mm-hmm. And so being able to just add that as part of the ecosystem is really cool. I'm kind of excited to see how people do it. Like, what are they going to do with it?
Yeah, it'll be cool to see those use cases.
Internally, we've been playing with it to integrate with Skype guests to bring in just remote guests for our own live show, because Skype now supports NDI as well. So just being able to do that has been kind of a cool thing, and then we'll see where it goes. Yeah, it's a lot easier than just running cables everywhere and looping things around.
We get that.
Yeah, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, I definitely see the cameras coming in, but also the output as well. There's an output as well, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that the output I could see, depending on whether it's multicast or not, this could be going out to the whole school district in your sister's example, or it could be, used for all kinds of just over the local area network stuff, like a confidence monitor. It's incredible when you get into this world of NDI and IP production with all of the tools, 70 vendors here at NAB that have specific products for this, whether they're encoders or decoders. NewTek themselves even making a lot of big announcements this week.
Yeah.
It's incredible. You're right. It's just like with the cameras, for us, it was just like incredible how people are using it. You never know in this world. Let me ask you this question then. Where do you see the Pearl 2 fitting into the larger IP NDI world? I've been asking this question a lot. I hope it's not a too complex one. But the reason why I'm asking it is because there literally are 70 vendors with NDI products, and they're all in an ecosystem that can work together.
Right.
So I'm interested to know, the Pearl 2 specifically that you have here, where you think it fits in.
Yeah, so, obviously Pearl 2 is designed to be sort of that all-in-one studio in a box, mixer, switcher, streamer, recorder, kind of all in that tiny little package. And adding NDI really just opens that up even more, whether it's cameras or the outputs, maybe to help integrate with platforms like Skype. We get those questions all the time of, I love Pearl, I'm using it for my recording, but I need to get it into my web conferencing. And as more and more of those platforms are starting to use NDI, then it helps with that bridge. But also, IP cameras, it's way better than using like RTSP. It's just better. So it's nice for that. The auto discovery and all that stuff is really nice as part of the protocol. But not just that. So we also work very closely with NewBlueFX, which is they make titling software. And they have some that runs over NDI, so that even for a live show, you can aggregate chat through their system and send it over NDI. And Pearl 2, could key out the background and just throw it up as a dynamic overlay, feeding from their system that's aggregating all the chat from whatever platforms you're using. So that gives you a lot of power and flexibility as well. And I think that's what's cool about NDI, is that it's not just cameras. It's not just one thing. It's so many other pieces. We've seen a lot where people, just due to physical limitations of cabling, need to bring in even just a computer feed. Right? But all you need to do is load that NDI toolbox onto that PC and open that world up, right? And you don't have to be physically anywhere near it, because you can just run it over the network that everybody already has there. So it makes it nice and easy that way.
I have a question for you both, because we both have NDI products, and I know that NewTek just released NDI 4.0. What does that mean for the integrations with our products? Is there some sort of weird update that needs to happen? When is NDI 4.0 coming out, and what does that look like? Yeah,
as far as I know, there shouldn't really be much to do, as far as I'm aware. As far as I've seen.
It's like magic.
Yeah, I think that there is going to be some small changes to the libraries that are used.
Right.
So when they make a new release, when the firmware comes out on the Pearl 2, might have a different updated library on NDI. So for most customers, they won't notice. Some of the things that are happening that I learned at the NewTek event when they announced it on Sunday was that it's going to be about 25% faster.
Okay.
And what that means is, like, how could it be faster? It's by faster, what they mean is it's easier to process. It's 25% easier to process for your computer.
Okay.
So it'll be use less resources. They're calling it faster. It's a little bit misleading, I think, because it's supposed to be zero latency.
Right.
They're not improving the latency. They're improving the CPU usage. Also, the color bit depth has been increased up to 16 bits, I believe, which is better than SDI. So NDI is now better than SDI if you're using all of that space. What else do I remember? NewTek also announced something very interesting, and leads me to a question for you, George, actually. But they released a multi-quarter, a free multi-quarter, so you can take any NDI source on your network and just record them on your computer. My question to you is, if you have all of these inputs, is the Pearl 2, are all of the inputs then turned into outputs, or is it just one output? What is the output?
Yeah, so we could even, so the outputs for NDI could be totally independent of using NDI inputs. It's totally just a separate subsystem. So some people want to just have their normal HDMI and SDI inputs on a Pearl, but send it out over NDI for other workflows. Mm-hmm. So we can do that, or we can have the NDI inputs going back out, or whatever people need. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they kind of update that. I know we've probably been working with the previous generation SDK from NewTek, but obviously as that updates, it's easy for us to just update, like I say, just update that SDK library, roll it out in a new firmware patch for us, which we have a whole bunch of stuff coming in 2019. So there's some good stuff coming.
The other thing, because it answers your question too, is that the NDI 4.0 is going to build NDI HX into the SDK. Right. So therefore, no new NDI HX driver will be needed. As of right now, until that's available, you will need an NDI HX driver. I'm assuming that'll be included.
Yeah, we're taking HX for inputs. We're not currently using it for outputs, but hopefully in the future. There's a few things.
That is an interesting thought.
It is. Well, partially because right now they don't have it leveraging hardware encoders for HX for output, and Pearl's focused around that. So as they change it and update it, obviously we will as well. So it'll be good.
Well, congratulations on the partnership, because it's something for us. We've been working for almost 3 years with the NDI HX cameras, and Sony actually made a big announcement that they're releasing now their NDI HX cameras. And for us, it was a big validation that we made the right choice 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And now here we are with almost like 12 different models, or maybe even more if you count the Z cams. So it's really changed the way that our customers use our products, and I'm sure it'll do the same for you.
Yeah, and like I said, 2019 for Epiphan is all about partnerships and integrations. So whether it's the NDI stuff or our recent integration with Kaltura as a content management system, we're finishing up now with an integration with Panopto as well for content management systems. So when we're looking, especially at the education market, right, they're obviously using a lot of PTZ cameras, and hopefully they're all using PTZOptics cameras.
We know they're using Epiphan products.
Exactly. So between that, the NDI, these content management systems, just building that bigger ecosystem and making sure that everyone's getting the video they need to the place they need it, and as easy as possible.
One of the things that I love about the Pearl, and I've always loved about it, and I have one actually, is that it has a terabyte hard drive, correct?
Yeah, so the original one had the terabyte. The Pearl 2 has the 500 gig SSD, and the newer Pearl Mini, which I didn't bring with me this time, which we released last June, uses an SD card of your own choice. So you can kind of
pop a terabyte in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Yeah, because that was something I remember just enjoying, because a lot of space on there, all in one, pretty much like a computer almost, but more hardware oriented.
Yeah, exactly. But we can always integrate with external storage to automatically offload content as well. So there's lots of ways to work it into that flow. And of course, again, these content management systems, you can pull the scheduling down automatically now with Kaltura and push the assets back where they need to be. And so it just makes it really, really easy.
And where can our audience members find out more, get in contact with Epiphan?
Yeah, so of course, epiphan.com is our website. And you can always email us, info@epiphan.com. Of course, you can find us on all the social media things.
Epiphan show.
Exactly. We just finished that not long ago and kind of ran straight over here as we finished it. So we did that live from our booth at noon, and so we kind of wrapped up.
Go live?
We're always Thursdays at 3:00 Eastern.
Okay.
That's our date and time. So yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with? NAB has really gotten to my mind.
Yeah. No. Exactly. I'm kind of starting to lose them a little bit. So yeah. No, it's good. It's great seeing you guys again, of course, and thank you so much for the opportunity to come on and chat about this stuff.
We love having you. Thanks, George.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right.
We've got one last interview, so stick around. Blackmagic is going to come on in just a moment, so stick around, guys. We'll be back.
Yeah. We're finally getting into All right, welcome back. We are here with the one, the only Blackmagic Design, Bob.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Can you give us your official title so I know exactly who's talking to you? I don't want to mess that up.
I am the Director of Sales Operations for the Americas.
Excellent. So we're talking to a big wig over here.
We'll see about that.
How's NAB been?
Oh, great. Nice to be here, day 4. And I still have my voice, which I'm pretty happy about.
I know people have been telling me
Goodness
I'm
for this
starting to
interview.
sound a little bit more scratchy.
Yeah, I've been trying to use hot water and lemon to keep my voice. Otherwise, I'd be Barry White by the end of the 4 days. Hey, everybody, how's it going? So I didn't want to have that.
So we're so glad that you were able to come on.
So is the chat.
We've had customers using PTZOptics cameras with Blackmagic switchers for a long time, but there was a couple years there where all of our customers had to use a decimator to convert 60 frames a second to 59.97. I just know some of you guys are out there. We finally released a firmware to support broadcast frame rates, and now everyone's really happy about that.
Especially our Blackmagic customers.
Especially the Blackmagic customers, and then the ATEM Studio customers as well. There's a couple releases on the ATEM side. Can you fill us in?
Yeah, sure. So it's funny because one of the new ATEMs that we introduced last year is the ATEM Television Studio Pro 4K. That device actually has standards conversion built into every input. So that one's cool because
that one was when it stopped being an issue.
Just all right. So that one would not be an issue with any of those. And what the really good part of that is that whatever you set your output standard to, anything you plug in is going to match it. So whether it has to upscale to 4K or downres to HD from 4K, you're good with that switcher. And so that one was cool because it also builds upon the original ATEM TV Studio, the way people knew how to use those same software interface and whatever. But now with the dynamic inputs, which is good because sometimes even though they might have like 3 of your cameras, they could take like an external feed from something else that may not be broadcast, and this will convert it, which is good for everybody.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then at the show, we introduced a new 8K switcher.
What?
8K switcher.
Now,
Of course you guys
now the
did.
good part about it is it's called the ATEM Constellation 8K. Now, it's an 8K switcher, but it's also a gigantic HD and 4K switcher. So it's a little bit of everything. So in the 8K, it's 10 inputs, but when you have to bring in 8K, it's 4 12G signals on SDI.
Ooh,
so when you have
crazy.
4 for 10 inputs, that's 40 connectors. So when you run it in 4K or HD, now you have 40 inputs,
wow.
24 outputs, all kinds of keys and whatnot. The price is $10,000. So while it's expensive for Blackmagic, it's still not very expensive, and especially if you're going to be able to do HD, 4K, and 8K.
Who are the customers for that?
Well, the thing is, the Olympics in 2020 in Tokyo there's going to be a lot of 8K there.
Really?
NHK is already doing an 8K channel they're broadcasting on, and they intend to do a lot of the Olympics there. So we needed to make some 8K products, and there's a few others. We have a recorder, and we have some other monitoring devices that are for 8K, but they all work in Ultra HD and HD, so they're products of today and also tomorrow. So we know that people will buy them for different applications, but there are some 8K applications that people needed immediately. But again, they're just, if you're buying it for HD or Ultra HD, you're getting a gigantic switcher.
Wow. I'm trying to think of somebody who would need 40 inputs. It would have to be a really big.
Olympics makes sense.
The Olympics, yes.
They do. I mean, it's funny. No matter how many inputs you have, there's always somebody who says, if it had a few more,
Yeah, I hear that.
There's always, reasons to have more inputs. No one's ever said, I have too many inputs. You think you do until you run out. The outputs is really where it's special because having all those different outputs, then you can do all your ISO records out of that. You don't even need a router in front. So overall, net, you may spend about the same amount of money because, people want to do ISO records. They want to do clean feed records, all these other things. Well, with 24 outputs, you should probably be able to handle most of that.
Couple of comments coming from the chat. Matthew wants to thank you for
You're welcome.
thanks to Blackmagic Design for putting studio tools in the budget range for startups.
Well, that's the thing, enabling the masses. I remember when I was in college last century, a long time ago, at the end of my junior year, we put in the budget to get a new switcher for my senior year for our TV studio. And it wasn't a big switcher at all. It was a 1ME. It wasn't anything. There was, at the time, the DV hadn't even been invented. But it was going to be $60,000. And we got the budget approved, and I was all excited. And I came back in the fall, and I said, what happened to the switcher? And they said, oh, well, you see they're adding a swimming pool to the gym. That's where your switcher went. Now, long term, that pool's still there at the university. That analog switcher would not be. And if they had these products, it would be, you could do it. So flash forward, last fall, I'm up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I went to school. And I went by the school, and they brought me into the TV station.
King's College?
But no, I went to University of Scranton.
We're from Philadelphia.
Oh, there you go. Well, I live in South Jersey now, too. It's like a whole film week. But anyway, I go in, and they showed me the thing. It's all Blackmagic. And I'm laughing because of all the products they bought, it was still under $60,000. And they bought cameras and the switcher and everything else. And I just said, now you can enable the masses. High schools, churches, the products are everywhere. And the Olympics team are using them, too. I mean, that's the funny thing.
Isn't that amazing, the versatility, the options?
Because you guys have built so much into it. It's high quality, but affordable at the same time, which is really our motto here, broadcast quality made affordable. So that's why I think so many people are putting our products together.
Right.
Tell me about the color matching stuff that you guys are doing, because I think that's becoming really important. They got the DaVinci Resolve is there. Is that becoming something that is more commonly used in everyday productions?
So it's interesting because in DaVinci Resolve, there's a lot of different ways you can do even on-set color. We have a way with Resolve Live where you can bring an input in and apply grading on a live signal and then put it out on the, make a LUT and put it out on the output. When in larger setups, sometimes we have our own Blackmagic cameras, and we have the ability to control those through the ATEM so that we can do shading there. But the color grading tools in the ATEM software are very DaVinci-esque because that's where it's pulled from. So I've been on set where there'll be guys that they'll bring their colorist in to the live production and say, hey, can you shade the cameras before? And the guy's like, oh, well, this looks just like, oh, how about that? So here's a guy who doesn't really work in live, but he was able to, make the cameras look good. And, so that kind of technology, we've bought a lot of different companies over the last 10 years. 10 NABs ago is when I came to Blackmagic because I came with the DaVinci acquisition.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was the youngest guy at DaVinci and became the oldest guy at Blackmagic overnight. It was kind of a crazy weekend.
Shocking.
Yeah. And the software or the systems for Resolve at the time were like $350,000, and now it's free software, but we're making it up in volume somehow. But the thing is that, then we started adding the ATEMs. I used to be a TD. And as a matter of fact, I TD the ASC awards once a year, which is not ideal that you do it once a year, but it's like giving a piano concert without a piano in your house. But it's fun that we actually get to use the equipment. So, and when you have a lot of pieces to the puzzle like we do, then we can actually vet some of this workflow. And then it helps because then when we take calls, we're like, oh, yeah, I know what that is. And, it's interesting because we don't think the prices hold anybody back, and our manufacturing, we manufacture ourselves, which keeps costs down. And our philosophy, which comes from our CEO, is like, I want to get as many products out to as many people because I don't want anyone to think that they can't afford to do this.
Yeah, so it's an Australian company, correct?
Correct. Melbourne, Australia is the headquarters. Yep. So it's a long flight from LA. So when I fly from Newark to LA and then LA there, it's like, 3 days lost by the time you get there. But it's fun.
A lot of the Australia team come over here for NAB.
So yeah, Australia has a big, we have, 100 people on our booth. And so we have people from
100 people
on the booth. Yeah, well, the booth is huge.
Yeah, it is huge. It is huge.
We need a lot of people.
Yeah.
I spend most of the time on the other side of the wall doing the press stuff. And at first I kind of missed talking to customers, although all the other shows I talk to customers, this is the one I don't really talk too many to customers, except when I do things like this, I'm actually talking to more customers than I would if I stood in the front of the booth. So
I'm glad you totally get that.
Well, it's true. I mean, after you think about that, because I'm already getting notes from people going, oh, I saw the video on this and this, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. But I'm glad because that means that the word's getting out, and I'm not having an individual conversation. I'm having a semi-individual conversation with however many people are watching, which is good.
They're able to make comments like this one saying, so looking forward to the BMD editor's keyboard.
Oh, yeah. So that was a big deal. We came out with a new version of Resolve called DaVinci Resolve 16. And we added all kinds of features to the existing edit, color, fusion, Fairlight page. And then we added a new page called the cut page. And it's really designed, it's funny too, because it's the kind of work I used to do when I edited way back when. A lot of, short form, commercials, promos, those kind of things. That's a different way of editing than doing a narrative feature or documentary, long form stuff. So we added this quick cut page, basically, where you can just slap edits together and you can look at all your material on one clip. So you can just scroll through, mark in and out points, and send it down. And as we were doing it and realizing how fast it was like, whoa, what if we had an editor keyboard? So we put in a search dial, jog and shuttle and scroll. And then on the other hand, I can mark in and out points and drop them into the timeline. And now you're working with two hands, which is the way I started in the linear days in the 80s. Oof, that's old. But, when you have that kind of speed, you're really motoring. And the other thing is the other pages are still there to finish, with, add different types of transitions and things in the edit page and do all the rest of the workflow. It was really well received. I think it's because we explained it properly from the start. It's also a great way to get introduced to Resolve so that people that haven't really edited yet with it could kind of get used to it and, before they dive deep into the big edit page. So it's really exciting. The panel will be out later this summer, and people are looking forward to it, I hope.
Excellent.
Sounds like it.
Hey, Video Scene, thanks for checking in with us in the chat. They were asking about Blackmagic Design and NDI. Are they going to move to NDI input and NDI type converters?
Well, we haven't yet. We've been very successful with our SDI and HDI input and workflow, especially as the SDI, like the 12Gs, started to match the same cable lengths as the existing SDI. So for now, that's where we're at. I mean, we never talk about the future because we never know it.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
We just don't, and it's one of those things that all things can happen. We just wait and see what happens next year or month or whenever.
So no secrets for us, huh?
No, unfortunately, we're not allowed. They men in black me, so I don't get anything extra.
Yeah, I get that vibe sometimes around here. Not quite as big as Blackmagic Design.
So what else is new at the booth at 2018 before we wrap up? 19.
Ooh, we went back in time.
We get a little confused by the fourth day.
I'm with you. Yeah, it's late in the day.
Sorry.
That's fine.
But for those folks at home, not everybody gets to go to NAB. We talked about the new 8K ATEM. What else did you guys bring?
Wrapped around the 8K switcher is a new HyperDeck. HyperDeck Extreme 8K HDR is the full title. And that deck will record 8K, but it also will record Ultra HD and high def and standard def. But we also added this HyperDeck controller, which looks like the front of an old school, video deck, from way back when. It's got all the same in and out points. It's got an eject button and a pre-roll button. So what you do is it's got RS-422 on the back, so you can connect to all those old machines and lay in, do archive to the new HyperDeck. So there's a video that Grant did on our website, our CEO. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long because he goes through every product and use cases. And in one of them, he connects the controller to a 1-inch machine, plays it back through one of our up converters into the new HyperDeck, and he's making edits between the two machines. So there's a 30-year-old machine that is still working. And so that's breathing life into old products and giving ways for people to archive, which is kind of cool.
Wow, that is really cool.
And we also have a new SDI to HDMI 8K Terranex Mini converter. And what that's for is you get the 4 SDI 8K out of the ATEM. You need to put it into a television, which is going to be an 8K TV. Well, the only way to get that is HDMI, and it's 4 HDMIs that they feed because 8K is 4 times 4K.
Wow. Yeah.
Even though it looks like it's double, but it's not. So in order to do that, you need this device. Now, the good thing about this device is you can also get if you have a probe, you can plug it in, and then you can save a LUT so that it applies the calibration to the monitor. So you get high quality calibration on the consumer TVs, which is cool. And then we have our new Ursa Mini Pro Generation 2, and that's it's being shown here for the first time. It's new high frame rate, so it records up to 120 frames per second in 4K and 300 frames per second in HD, which is cool. And then our Pocket Cinema Camera 4K that we announced last year, we have a new battery grip that goes on the bottom to give like 2 hours of record time, because some of these external devices that you add in, like a phantom powered mic or an SSD drive, they start to suck a lot of power. So it was zapping the juice. So we built this handle that goes right in the bottom, and it has a slide out tray. So it's mounted on a tripod. You can slide out, put the new batteries in, put it back without having to take it off there. And that'll be shipping later this year. It's like $245 little add-on. And obviously it looks great because it looks just like the camera, and it kind of plugs right in there. And people were excited about all those too.
Sounds like you guys had a big year, or is this like old news for you?
It's
like
funny because
typical for you.
we were just talking about this before I went over, and somebody said, it wasn't really the big year for us. And I'm like, well, for us,
and all you just listed.
I said, we have like 7 or 8 things that we have to talk about. One year we had like 30, and there was no way I could get it all in, And I said, people
like
overlook
to other people.
Yeah, well, people overlook it. If you don't, you know what I mean? If we can space them out a little bit, then people will absorb it. Because sometimes you will show up a year later and go, I never knew you made that. I'm like, well, that's because it was overshadowed by something else. And
because we had 30 other things.
Yeah, so for Blackmagic, it seems like a light year, but it's not really. And, I'm just glad that, in an interview like this I've done in those years, and you walk away and you're like, there were 10 things I never talked about. So thank you for the time.
Well, we'd love to have you back on our other shows.
I can't wait.
Hey, you be careful. I'll fine you after you said that.
If they say go, I go.
Well, I so appreciate you taking the time, especially at the end of the show. I know that everybody's starting to pack things up. So thank you so much for making it out here for us.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to joining you another time.
Yay!
Thank you, Bob.
My pleasure.
All
Safe
right,
travels,
thank you
everybody.
so much.
Bye, everybody. That's the end of our show.
We have a giveaway.
Away.
Yes.
You don't have to hang out for it,
You
but
don't have to hang out
we're
for
going
the
to pull
giveaway.
some winners,
All
and
right.
hopefully you're here
I'll
waiting
stay.
in the chat.
Stay tuned.
All right, Mike, pull the giveaway.
We've been doing a giveaway a day.
All right.
It's been super fun.
Cool. We're clear.
Yeah, you're clear. Clear for takeoff.
Goodbye.
It was
Thank
a
you very
pleasure to
much.
meet you.
Nice meeting you. I look
Thank
forward
you so
to
much.
seeing it.
Do you guys have a card or something I could steal? We're back for one last time before we start packing up things here at NAB.
All right, our final camera giveaway of the week. Who's going to win?
Wow, what a frigid week it's been.
It's in the
guys.
chat.
Remember, you have to be on the YouTube chat or here
Yes.
in person to claim your prize.
Mhm.
Jose de Jesus Barajas. Jose, are you here?
to Jesus.
Should we have everybody come on? You guys want to come on? You guys want to see the everybody from the chat? Come on over. No, this is all our friends. These are people that
Come
you
on
guys
over.
in the chat normally only see their names. Scott Pienta, Chris Zions. Come here, Brad. You were a winner earlier. Come on over.
Come on over, Brad.
Come on, Kyle. Kyle celebrated his birthday yesterday.
on,
and
Kyle.
won a camera.
What's up?
Well, it's exciting to be here with you guys. I tell you, I didn't get a chance to spend a lot of time. You guys have been so busy.
I know.
Oh, it's
I
been a
know.
while.
We got to see each other briefly at the Streaming Idiots.
I know.
All right, we could pick again. Brad won a camera too.
Brad won a camera.
Oh,
Kyle
come
won
on.
a
Are
camera.
you kidding?
Actually, Chris has won a camera.
I've won a camera.
I've
Yeah.
never
You
won
won a
anything.
camera?
Scott's
All right,
never
come on.
won. Scott.
He won a camera at a different event
All
the
right.
other day.
Well,
Did
there
you?
go.
Oh,
That's something.
yes, I did. I won it from
Andrew
from
Edel.
Ada camera.
Is that it?
Awesome.
I forgot all about that.
There you go.
kind of
So
camera was
everyone
that?
here has won
The,
a
it was
camera.
a USB
Everybody here has won a
3.0.
camera?
Yeah,
This just
basically.
goes to show if you hang out long enough, you'll
Yeah, if
eventually
you
win
hang out long
something.
enough,
You gotta
like,
come to
everybody's
NAB,
won a
man.
camera at some
Right.
point.
Yeah, everybody that won a camera
That's
ended up
hilarious.
being like in the audience. So,
That's so great. He's here.
He's here.
Andrew, congratulations!
Nice.
All right, that makes our lives
Who won?
so easy. Andrew.
Is this one of our normal?
I don't know.
people.
Andrew, are you normally here? It kind of sounds
Andrew.
familiar, but I'm not 100%.
Oh man, that makes our lives easier. We didn't have to wait like an hour
Thing you all
for.
saw besides PTZOptics cameras.
Well, one of the cool things that I've seen here that I'm really stoked about is I'm going to follow up with this. A new Chinese company has a new cable cart that's relatively inexpensive. It was for a one that can hold up to 25-pound camera with gimbal was $2,200.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that a good price?
you can hang a up to 15-pound was $1,000. So a lot of interesting things. But it was pretty cool piece of equipment.
Anybody buy anything? They're selling something.
That's what I'm going to actually go do right now. I remember Paul kind of walked around a little bit, and he said that you could really get good deals down here and stuff by just going and talking to these vendors that are around. So, like, I think that's a great idea. I've got a little bit of bucks in there. I tried to buy a whole camera and the new 4K Bird Dog for $100. It had a little stand and everything. Yeah, for $100, right? But they wouldn't sell it to me.
Yeah, I imagine not.
All right. Well, that's our show, folks. Thank you so
We gotta
much.
pack up, guys. It was a great year, 2019 NAB. We'll see you next year.
Adios.
Great job.